Kitty, Deborah Jo Rupp, and Red, Cutwood Smith, are not going to be happy when that 90s show returns in the fall. That 70s show's sequel series ended Part 2 with a literal crash when Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes, who are shockingly not playing 90s icons Jay and Silent Bob, drove their car right into the Foreman kitchen, much to Leia's, Callie Haverda, shock. You see, her grandparents Kitty and Red only just left for a romantic trip to Paris, and getting Red to actually board the plane was not easy. So finding out that Leo's, Tommy Chung, son Sonny, Smith, parked his car in their kitchen when Leia's party got out of hand is definitely going to put a damper on their vacation. I haven't really been able to tell anybody spoilers about what happens in Part 3, Haverda tells Entertainment Weekly. So they've all been asking me, we finished the 8th episode and we need to know, does Leia get sent home? Does she stay? I just want to tell them, but I've got to keep it under wraps until October. That 90s show will return to Netflix with 8 new episodes on October 24th, and Haverda promises that answers are coming after that shocking cliffhanger. That's the big question. Is Leia going to try to fix this herself? Is she going to get Bob to help? Is she going to get sent home? She says. There's so many different things that could possibly happen, and so I'm excited for people to see that this definitely gets resolved, and I'm happy with how it gets resolved. I think the audience will be happy as well. That 90s show filmed both Part 2 and Part 3 at the same time, and Haverda teases that the next 8 episodes will definitely be a little bit crazier. I know people might be a little bit shocked to hear that, but in Part 3, we definitely push the envelope a little bit more and introduce even more characters, which is super exciting, Haverda adds. Leia does get the situation under control, and there's a lot more fun to be had in Part 3 with the whole gang and a lot more crazy adventures to go on. While she doesn't want to spoil any big moments, she promises that Part 3 is definitely a roller coaster of emotions. I remember just filming it. We were all very, very emotional, she says. Not only because we had just finished the season, but the way that we leave off on Part 3 is definitely scary. I have high hopes, though. If we do get a Season 3, which hopefully we will, fingers crossed, I think that everything will be resolved. But there is a big moment at the end of Part 3, and it's really bittersweet. Haverda teases that it all leaves off on a lovely moment with all of the characters coming together. They are having a great time, but there's definitely this edge of sadness with it, she adds. And we were all emotional while we were filming it, so the emotion will probably come through in the scene. And I remember when we wrapped filming that scene, I just started crying, and we'd have to hold it together to finish. That lovely feeling of the family being all together, the gang, but also the cliffhanger that we're left on. I think it makes a great emotional moment. Between the cliffhanger ending and a few other important scenes, Haverda says there's a lot to look forward to when the show returns this fall. There's a very big moment that took a lot of rehearsal, and it's a pretty funny moment too. So I think audience members will definitely enjoy that for sure, she says. We spent so much time rehearsing. We would have to come to set an hour early for it, and the costumes in that moment are incredible. And then there's just a very simple scene at the kitchen table, but a lot goes down and it's also very funny, but in a sweet kind of clumsy way. I think audience members will be able to watch it and relate to their teenage years, or, if they're currently going through that, will be able to relate to Leia in that moment and the awkwardness of being with her family for it. Whether that moment has anything to do with Leia deciding to go all the way with Jay, Mace Coronel, Haverda is keeping tight-lipped. But she promises there's a lot more to come now that Leia wants to take that next step for the first time. It's her first relationship, and she's very inexperienced compared to Jay, and so it's difficult for her to navigate that, she says. She's getting more comfortable with him for sure, but she doesn't know everything, and in Part 3, we will see them navigate that more and her make some serious decisions about the relationship. While she can't wait for fans to see what happens next, she's glad she can finally talk about getting to work with Smith and Mewes in the Part 2 finale after keeping details about their arrival a secret. That was absolutely incredible. I mean, they are comedic geniuses, Haverda says. Having them step onto our set and play a part in our show was just a dream come true. I had to pinch myself a few times while we were filming that. And it was a little bit scary shooting it because I feel like I hadn't really had a scene where Leia was that shocked before. So to play that side of her being absolutely distraught, this is a huge deal. We have no idea if her grandparents are going to get back from France and be just completely mad at her and send her home. So to think about all those emotions while filming that scene was definitely difficult, but very fun. That 90s Show Part 2 is now streaming on Netflix.